What is going on at Cars and Things fam? Welcome back to another episode. I know, and I'm so sorry that I haven't been with you guys or posting as much. I have been so dedicated to the grind. I literally have not had any time. But I am back with a fresh new episode. This one in particular is called Owning an M Car. Now, we are always talking about what it feels like to own an M car. But what are some of the realities that I want to chat to you guys about that you should know before buying an M car? Now, it's an incredible range of cars that BMW offers, and I've had a few of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally just jumble all my information, all my knowledge that I've gained, and I've probably had over 6 or 7 M cars. So I'll just give you guys a summary of that. Now, if it is your first time watching the channel, thank you so much. Stay tuned. I'm going to be taking you guys through a few things that I think are essential. Now, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Please make sure you do subscribe. It means so much to us. We are growing. We're almost at 5K, guys. You know, young. But our goal this year is reaching 10K subscribers, and we are definitely going to get there. So we're tracking really well, and I'm super happy. But please make sure you do subscribe. A number of people watch the channel, but they don't subscribe. Subscribe. And right next to the subscribe button is the bell icon. So make sure you click that so you never miss a video. Because nowadays you don't really know when I'm going to post, because I kind of just post. So make sure you get that and you never miss a video. You have bought your M car. It may be your first car, your third, fourth, doesn't really matter. But there are a few things I want to kind of get across, just so everyone understands what it's like to in fact own an M car. It's obviously a BMW M car. It's powerful, it's dynamic, it's exciting, and all of those things. However, you are excited to have this car, and there's a few things I want you to be aware of, and I'm literally just gonna kind of just randomly go through all of them. The first one is you've obviously received your car, and a lot of young people love M cars. We love M cars, right? And the first thing you're obviously gonna need to get once you've kind of purchased it and you've paid your deposits, or you bought a cash, whatever. The first thing you're going to need to get is insurance. And for us young people, insurance is quite expensive, especially for us young males. There seems to be this idea that we are like wilding out all the time, and maybe we're irresponsible drivers. And as a result of these many things, and they're based on, risk assessments and things like that, your insurance would be quite high. What some people tend to do is they tend to get their insurance policies under, this road is quite bumpy, under like their parents who are quite elderly, just to kind of bring it down. But I don't know how that works. I've just heard like some people do that, but insurance is quite expensive. And I'll just be honest with you guys, on my M2 currently, I'm paying about 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, 3.5, and that was the cheapest quote that I got. The most expensive was about 5.5 grand, and I was like, that is absolutely insane. I know when things are tough, for some people, insurance is the first thing that they're like, Nabi, I'm not going to pay that. So that's the first thing you need to be aware of. Insurance isn't going to be the cheapest for you because you own an M car. And make sure you find an insurer that is not going to cost you that much. But also what's very important to get, especially when it comes to insurance, is comprehensive cover. A lot of people want to get sort of like third-party accident, theft, and all of those things, which are very important. However, you need a package that gives you or covers you for absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. And for that, you may need to pay a bit extra. So M cars typically aren't the cheapest. They are quite expensive. And the reality is, not everyone is going to own an M car. Maybe they don't want one, but also from a cost point of view, there are quite expensive cars not only to buy, but I'd probably say to maintain as well, and I'll tell you guys why in the following few points. So please be aware that your insurance is relatively going to be quite high because of the value of the car and the risk assessment stuff and so on. So that's the first thing you should be aware of. So take that into consideration when you're planning around your finances and your bills and actually buying this car, right? It's not just petrol. You're not just going to pay for petrol and that's it. But now that I'm actually talking about petrol, a full tank typically in these M cars on average is about 770, and that's particularly your lower M range cars. So I'm talking about sort of M2, M3, M4. I'm not too sure around M5. I haven't owned one yet, but I've owned a number of M2s, I've owned a number of M4s, and I can tell you typically that's the range of a full tank. You're looking at about 770, and consumption is pretty good. I don't have the consumption figures, however consumption is pretty good. But what I will say though, as kind of like a word of caution, is that when you have an M car, you don't want to drive it in efficiency. You don't want to drive it in comfort. You want to drive that car in sports or sport plus all the time. And when you do that, it drinks. Now, I've come accustomed to 3-liter cars because I've had a number, as I've said. So to me, I'm not shocked when I have to top up, all the time. But if you have an M car, the assumption is that you can top up all the time, every time. But it is a cost, and all these things add up. You're not only filling up a full tank every single time, but what I can tell you is you're gonna want to fill up at least a half tank, because you're gonna put that car in sports and you're gonna push it to literally that much in terms of the accelerator, and it's just gonna go gluk, gluk, gluk. It's just going to drink. But that happens with all cars. It's not just M cars, especially sports cars. As soon as you put into sports, obviously the engine's more responsive, acceleration more responsive, that sort of stuff. The car reacts in a particular way where it uses up a lot more petrol. So just be aware of that. So I don't know a lot of people with M cars that drive them on comfort. I honestly don't. I don't think I've met anyone. I also always drive on sports. Even on a chill day, I drive on sport. The exhaust is not too loud. So I often drive on sports. What I do need to tell you guys about while I'm still here is I've done quite a bit of upgrades to the car, which are pretty cool. Nothing crazy, nothing that would, warrant voiding my warranty and all that sort of stuff. However, I have made some adjustments to the car that I will reveal very soon. Very, very soon. But while I'm still talking about sort of performance and petrol and stuff like that, the one thing I will tell you, which is the next thing I wanted to talk about, is really around speed. Now, I have been stopped probably by the cops maybe around 3 or 4 times and received a ticket for it, because I was going over the speed limit and I didn't even know it. So I often check my gauge and whether I had a heads up display or not, but I'm often looking at it, and it's not something I would typically miss. But when you're buying an M car and you're on sports and you literally put your foot down on the accelerator or on the throttle, whatever you call it, the car moves, and you often get so familiar with the actual speed and you don't realize how fast you're actually going. You may be in an 80 zone, but you're kind of going at like 100 or even more because you can't seem to notice, which is kind of like the restricting factor. And this happens with a lot of sports cars in South Africa, because our speed limit on freeways is like 120. You can't push it further than that, and with an M car it is so easy to get there. I mean, you're driving a car that goes from 0 to 100 in literally, let's just say 4 seconds or less, maybe 4.5 or less, and you are literally going to get to 120 very quickly. So you always need to be aware of your speed, and often what happens is you could get into trouble. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I really want you guys, if you are looking to get an M car, to be aware of speed, because it could become dangerous if you're not aware. For example, what some people do is you go out for drinks, we're young, we want to have some fun, we want to socialize, network, connect, etc. You go out for drinks and you're driving your M car. Now, this is one of the things I was fearful of when I had an M4, and I'm not trying to deter anyone from having an M4. I've always openly said that the car was well spiced, and I was sometimes fearful of actually driving that car after I've been out and I've had like one drink, for example, because of kind of the handling requirements that it in fact needed. So guys, be aware, if you are buying an M car, if you are buying a sports car, a car that's really fast, be aware of your speeds, be aware of your surroundings, and things like that, and always be sharp, and of course don't drink and drive. And while I'm actually talking around sort of handling, I have to say that obviously M cars are rear-wheel drive cars, and for those that don't know, all the power comes through the back tires. Now, what the power coming through the back, your car does sometimes drift. And why that is beneficial is for obviously track purposes. Rear-wheel drive cars get around bends faster, apparently, because apparently they get around corners, and you can see it within the sort of races that are being done with four-wheel drive cars versus rear-wheel drive cars and that sort of stuff. So the thinking is rear-wheel drive cars get around bends quicker. So what you'll notice is you may not get around bends quicker, but it is possible. And what that does is your car literally does a bit of a drift around that corner and gets around it quickly. So with that said, rear-wheel drive cars can be very dangerous because your back, for example, may slip out. It could be due to road conditions. There are so many reasons why your back could. It could be because your traction is off. It could be because you got bad tires. So whenever you have got a rear-wheel drive car, I would often suggest that you do an M Advanced or M Intensive advanced driving course specifically to rear-wheel drive cars, because you need to know what you're doing. Many M's have showed people flames have showed people literally flames, have ended up around a tree or upside down, and I don't know if it's true, but apparently 80% of M car owners can't drive their M cars. Now, I'd like to believe I fall in the 20%. And I just want to say to you guys as well is doing one of those courses, you stand a better chance, you're better equipped. For example, you understand what the car is doing, and you can control it a lot better. I know that some insurance companies even reduce your insurance for you having an advanced driver's license. Now, I've got one from Jaguar and I've got 3 from BMW. And I'm currently going into the M Drift course as well. And my insurance hasn't dropped, but it does help you handle the car a lot better. And when the car kind of pulls at the back, you are able to control it. Now, the beautiful thing about owning an M2 is that they are so easy to control. The M4s were quite difficult because of the big body that it comes with and the power that it comes with as well. When your turbo kicks in like gear 2 and the car kind of swings out, you then need to control it and kind of play with it. I've spoken about that in a number of my YouTube videos. I even have donut episodes where I'm talking about, sort of understeer, oversteer, how to manage it and control it and that sort of stuff. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want me to talk about that a bit more. But I know a lot of people just think, let me just get an M car, I can drive it, and I'm just gonna push this thing through corners. That is not a reality. Something else that's quite interesting, and I have to say, is that like when you have an M car, because it's rear-wheel drive, you often need to check your tires. Now, a lot of accidents happen on M cars because people don't check their tires. Their tires are worn out, for example. And what happens is when you're at a traffic light or when you're driving, obviously the usage and utility of those tires, they start to wear off over time, and people don't often check that. Gone are the days where you have tires and they last you 4 years or 2 years even. When you have an M car, it doesn't really happen that way. I would often recommend that you change your tires at least once a year. At least once a year, change your tires. And there's a number of tires that are out there. However, there's one, and this is not a plug, maybe it is a plug, but it works for me and works for a lot of M owners, is Michelin tires, guys, which are freaking amazing. At the moment, I've got Cup 4S's. I found them to be a lot more grippier. A lot of people use the Cup 2s, which I think are really, really great as well. But I used to use on my M4, if you guys don't remember, I used to use a tire called Radar, which was, I think, a drifting tire that I used on it. And at low speeds, it was very grippy on the road. But at high speeds, it wasn't too grippy, so it would kind of slightly slide. So what you will find as well is that you find tires that are, I can't seem to remember the word, but basically that are approved by BMW, which are typically your Michelins and Bridgestones, that are approved. There are others as well that I'm not aware of. However, when it comes to M cars, I've often seen it is Michelin's. Something that you guys probably don't know, and I am a bit embarrassed to say this, but I learned probably a year ago, I learned that M cars don't come with run flats. Now, I've always thought M cars have run flats because it's an M car, right? So if you hit a pothole, you should be able to replace it. But no, they don't come with it. Apparently, it was something that came from Germany to say that M cars cannot come with run flats. I'm not too sure of that specific reason, but it was a performance reason as to why they don't come with run flats. So should you get a flat tire, you are going to need to call BMW Assist to come help you with your flat tire. So guys, the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is when you own an M car, something very, 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 very important, absolutely crucial. And I would assume that not a lot of people, for example, may have it. My assumption is not everyone may have it. And that is a service or a maintenance plan. Typically, when you buy your M car, complimentary within the pricing is a maintenance plan. And maintenance plan covers your services and it covers parts as well. So it saves you quite a lot of money. That is why motor plan is so important to a lot of M owners, a lot of M car owners, because parts are expensive, services are expensive. I wish I could give you guys a range, but I can tell you now, you wouldn't be looking to pay anything less than 10K. And that could be on a basic service. So imagine you now need to replace a part, and that's even more expensive. You now need to do a major service, that's even more expensive. So I would always recommend that you have a maintenance plan or a service plan. Now, service will only cover you for the labor and the diagnostics and that sort of stuff. But when you need to get new parts, like new filters and all of that stuff, all the small little things, and I'm just mentioning the small little things that you would need to change, they all cost money. What you would typically get with a maintenance with the maintenance plan is you get an invoice with all the work done to the car. However, it would be zero rated because it's covered under your motor plan. But if it is not, you can actually get that price. And if you want, should your car be, let's say, 100,000 kilometers and it's coming off motor plan, it's also done its 5 years as well, you can ask them for kind of like a projection of all the things that you would typically need to change, and then see how much that costs. But maintenance without motor plan is very expensive. I don't want to lie to you guys. It is very expensive. So if you see people online saying, yeah, screw motor plan, blah, 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 yeah, cool, but you're going to pay out of your own pockets. And I used to be one of those people that didn't really mind, because you mean, how often do you take your car for service and maintenance? For me, it is give or take about once or twice a year. It's not a lot. So I thought, look, I can actually pay for it. But watch my M4 video if you want to learn more about why I got rid of the car. One of the reasons was I had driven the car as a daily and it had reached quite a lot of mileage, and I was worried that to service and maintain the car was going to be very expensive. And at that point in time, I was getting married, I was kind of growing up, and I didn't want to have these unforeseen bachelor kind of costs where I'm just like, yeah, cool, I'll throw money at this, I'll do that. I didn't really want to do that. Cool. I didn't really want to do that, so I kind of let go of the car. But when it comes to maintenance, and let's say you don't have a motor plan or you can't afford it, or maybe you did buy the car at 100,000 or over. The car at 100,000, and a lot of people, I kind of hate this. They kind of think that the car's like lifespan is over, like at 100,000, but it's not. I know people with M cars that have over 200,000 kilometers. I've got a car that has over 250,000 kilometers, and it still runs very strong. Now, that's the other car that I don't talk about. But it's not over. So you could get a third-party maintenance plan. I would often recommend you take the car to the dealer that made the cars, because I feel they best understand their car and they'll always know, or often know, what to do. However, if that is too expensive and you can't afford it, and the reality is not everyone's going to take their car to BMW, there are third parties that will soon be licensed to service your car under maintenance. But the good thing about that is if your car is not under maintenance, they could do that too, and I could almost assure you that they would be cheaper than a BMW dealership. So I've often heard that Bosch provides some of the parts to BMW for like maintenance and things like that, so they would be a good alternative. And there's a number of sort of Bosch workshops and stations all over the country that you can then visit. But you guys must know that the maintenance, should you not be under motor plan, you'll pay for that in your own pockets. And there are benefits to getting a service plan and benefits to getting a maintenance plan, but I would always recommend you get a maintenance plan because these are extra costs. Now, you're paying an installment for the car if you financed it, and most of us will finance it. Not a lot of us have like probably R1 million in our accounts to buy this thing and kind of live life all hunky-dory and everything's amazing and stuff like that, and you don't need to worry about anything else because you bought a cash and you don't really care. A lot of us are going to finance it, and I'd often recommend you use the bank's money and not yours. Use your money to do other things. So a lot of us are going to finance it, and with financing it, I would often recommend that you have it on maintenance. And what some people do, of course, is some people want to keep the car for ever and ever, but I'm the type of person that every year I want to buy a new car. So I need to make sure of a number of things, and I speak about this in some of my other videos where I'm talking about my other cars and things like that. So Servicing, maintenance, totally up to you. I'd always recommend you have a maintenance plan though that covers absolutely everything and covers parts as well. However, when you start to do modifications now, that changes things, because you now kind of need to get the car serviced at the place that did your modifications. And in my video talking about my N4, I talk about the kinds of modifications and how much they cost and things like that. But when it comes to servicing, that's where you need to do your servicing, and there's of course a cost associated with that as well. So from parts and blah 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 blah. So always go to a specialist, and there are a number of them. 357, the 357 does it really, really well. If you own an M car, does it really, really well, and they can help you with your car as well for, I'd probably say, a fraction of what you would typically pay at a BMW dealership. So service maintenance, very important. In talking about that though, I can't not mention when it comes to M cars, you are going to need something they call PPF, which I've spoken about in another video as well. And what PPF is, it's paint protection film. Essentially, think about it as a screen protector for your car. Now, when you're driving a sports car or a high performance car, stone chips are inevitable. It could be from the road itself, or it could be from a car in front of you. Stone chips do happen, and what they create is they essentially scratch your paint, and bits of your paint around your frontal area of your car, like bumper and fenders and so forth, begins to have a chip. And if you've got a black car like I do, those stone chips are highly visible. They are incredibly visible. So you would need PPF. And again, PPF isn't cheap. I mean, you can go to a supplier or a workshop or an outlet, and they can do it for you for a fraction of the price, but you need to do it right. And if you are going to do it right, it's not going to cost you anything less than 10K, or I'd probably even say 12K. What some people do is you just do the sort of front area and you leave the bonnet out, but you also get stone chips on your bonnets as well. So I don't think that's smart. However, you'd need to do sort of the full front to the end of the bonnet, so you are covered for stone chips. And that's like a young 12, 15K situation. So you're again paying for your car. There's insurance, there is maintenance services, there's tires, there's petrol, and then there's also PPF. So if you bought your car for $1 million, you're already in for like a 1.2 kind of story. And these are extra costs that are not under your finance. However, from a timing point of view, you can then plan, you can save towards it, and that sort of stuff. However, they are all essential things that you should consider when you're owning an M car. Now, I'm not trying to scare anyone from owning an M car at all. I just want you to know the realities of what you need to do. All the other extra stuff is totally up to you, and I'm not even talking about modifications. When we start talking modifications, now that's literally another realm. Those are other costs, for example, and I talk about mods versus no mods, and there are benefits to both. There's merit in both. I've had mods, and then I don't have mods, you know what I mean? And right now I don't. I'm very happy with this car. I've become very sentimental about my Alpina M2 competition, and I don't want to do anything to it outside of sort of cosmetic changes. I just want to keep it the way that it is, and I want to enjoy this car. Is it a keeper? Probably yes. And I want to keep it for as long as possible. However, you guys know what I want, but I wouldn't be looking to change this car at all. I want to revamp my garage, which is why I got rid of all of my cars. And I recently got into a house, so I'm working at it slowly. There's a number of cars I still want to get, and I've openly said it in my Q&A video, and I'm still going to get them. However, with this one in particular, I have become very sentimental about this car. I absolutely love it. Now, I've spoken about a number of things, but what I will tell you guys is that having and owning an M car is the most exciting, woo, is the most exciting thing ever. I've owned four-wheel drive cars, but I always gravitate towards rear-wheel drive cars. It is incredibly exciting. It is fun, and M2s in particular are such driver's cars that when you are behind the wheel of an M2, you are having literally the time of your life. The other thing I actually wanted to talk about real quick is when you are going to modify the car, and I've spoken about how I only want to do cosmetic modifications to my car. If you are going to modify the car, again, you are going to pay, and there's a number of places that have different kind of cost ranges. You can decide literally what you want to do. Do you want to wide body your car? Do you want to have carbon fiber parts? But what I will tell you though, and something that was told to me when I bought my first M car, is that carbon fiber parts are expensive. Whether you want to go via BMW or you want to go to a third party that sells carbon fiber parts, they are quite expensive. Find someone who's an expert at it. Find a dealer who's an expert at it. Just so they... Oh, so an S3 there. Oh, looking nice. I actually wanted to buy one at some point, but anyway, that's a point for another day as an extra car. So find a supplier or a workshop that does it really well, that sells sort of A grade, best quality carbon fiber, and then have that. However, it does come with a cost, and something that I was told was that you own an M4, it's not going to be cheap, and doing all the carbon fiber there, I probably spent about 80 grand if I'm not mistaken. To be honest, doing all the carbon fiber on my M2, my Alpina M2 competition, I probably spent about 50 grand or so. Ooh, that's across there. I probably spent about 50 grand or so doing everything on this car. So it is quite expensive. It's an extra cost. But at the end of it, like, it brings you joy. It brings me joy. And your car's going to look freaking amazing. So those are other things that you need to consider. Standard, some cars don't look that nice, but also you would want to add your personal touch to it. I want to add my personal touch to my cars. I want to personalize them. I may want to modify them. So I really want to literally own it all through and through. So that's really a little something, guys. I thought I might just share a few things about owning an M car, a few realities. I know I focused a lot around the cost, but what I will tell you that owning an M car is the most incredible feeling ever. I've owned a few cars, wanted to own a few more others, but owning an M car does not compare at all, which is why I've had so many of them, and I keep buying M cars. Literally, I kind of feel like they're made for me and the kind of driver that I am. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Comment below, let me know if it's cool. Let me know if there's other things you guys want to know about, and most importantly, do subscribe. It means so much. It means so much to us, and we're so excited for you guys to be a part of the Cars and Things fam. Just remember, guys, for whatever you want in life, just make sure that you faith it until you make it. That's how I do my thing, and I win every single time. Guys, till next time, thank you very much for watching. It's time for me to drive. Peace out, guys.